Hello, everyone. Hello. This video is how to celebrate Juneteenth, June 19th. So let's get right into it. One, this week, voters registration drive, either done by yourself, your church group, or your community group. Register to vote and make sure you go vote. Two, every African American should take their monthly salary times 6 months times 157 years. Create a bill that says past due for over 150 years, present it to your company where you work for them to have an understanding what 6 months of free unpaid labor benefited everyone who was not African American in the United States of America. Remember, it was approximately 6 months from the passage of the 13th Amendment to June 19th, 1865. Three, deliver that overdue bill to your congressman, your mayor, your senator, and the president of the United States to remind them that restoration, equity, and reparation is about money owed and not programs and bank loans for others to make money. Number four, have a pit barbecue celebration or real barbecue smoking. Use wood or charcoal only. As African Americans created the art of American barbecue, reason why I know this, go look it up on the internet. But also, I'll never forget my Uncle Andrew going up to Colemantown, Louisiana for a barbecue. He had nothing but a shovel and a grate. And he told us, dig a hole, put some charcoal and wood in the ground, light it up, put the grate on top, and go barbecue. This cooking tradition and technique is as old as the first man and woman who used fire to cook, and they were out of Africa. Plant, number five, plant a vegetable herb garden at your home or in the community to remember our ancestors' last act as a slave. They planted crops in the United States for free and harvested the first fruit of those crops using their unpaid labor. Because those 6 months of extra slavery was used to plant and harvest the last crop for American wealth, plant your own food now. And make sure you do that because inflation is out of this world right now. We're in inflationary times. Number six, every preacher, Christian, Islam, Judaism, etc., on this Sunday, this Sabbath, this Mass, should preach about how God requires repentance, restoration, and forgiveness to demand restoration, equity, and reparations for African Americans and African diaspora slavery. Luke 18, verses 18 through 22, Luke 19, verses 7 through 10, Ezra chapter 1, verses 7 through 11, Exodus chapter 12, verses 33 through 36, Leviticus chapter 6, verses 2 through 5, Nehemiah chapter 5, verses 5 through 13, and many other verses in the Bible, the Quran, the Hebrew Torah. Reparations are biblically supported in both the Old and the New Testament. Therefore, when Christians, Muslims, Jews, etc., say they do not know what to do for people who had, by their hands, suffered inequity, injustice, slavery, and racism, tell them, do what God told you to do. And finally, number seven, African Americans, please stop standing up for the Texas Pledge of Allegiance. The Lincoln administration used the era's innovative technology. It wasn't internet back then, but it was called the telegraph to send and receive information about the war. News of the final proclamation was disseminated from the War Department by telegraph office on January 1st, 1863. So, on January 1865, a Houston newspaper reported the resolution endorsing Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation and adopted in the Federal House of Representatives number 78 through 51. More than 100, I repeat, more than 100 Texas newspapers mentioned the Emancipation Proclamation between 1862 and 1864. So there was no reason that everyone in Texas did not know that black people should have been free. The real reason people were still in bondage when Union troops arrived is because local Texas leaders, Texas government, the Texas Confederate Constitution prohibited making people free, making slaves free, manumission. Lincoln's directive was enforced only when federal soldiers got to Texas much later. Houston was emancipated on June 20th. Austin was liberated on June 23rd, all by the point of federal troop guns, bayonets, and cannons against Texas government leaders and slave owners. So everybody knew it. They just didn't want to do it. And they had to send federal troops to put guns in their faces saying, let them go. So stop standing up for the Texas Pledge of Allegiance, please. These are just my thoughts as I had to come to an understanding of why there was a June 19th celebration in Texas. Being from New Orleans, we were freed at the beginning of the Civil War because we faked them out. We dressed up like we were going to fight as Confederate soldiers. And when the Union ships came, we turned those guns right on them and said, come on, Union soldiers, let us out of here. And they had to use us to basically keep the war effort going. And we were the major port. So that's a little brief history, but let's continue. When I first heard of the Juneteenth holiday, I was angry. Why do you want to celebrate getting used free for an extra 6 months? But don't lose the focus on freedom to speak, freedom to act, freedom to live, and demand closure of the wealth gap through restoration, equity, and reparations. Juneteenth is about being free. So stay free, live free, act free, and speak free by any means necessary.